February 14, 1942. English Channel, 11:47 p.m. The night was calm, German. Radar screens glowed softly inside a bunker near the French coast. Operators watched small dots move slowly across the map. British bombers. Nothing unusual. Routine. One officer sipped his coffee. Another checked his watch. They had seen this pattern hundreds of times. Incoming raid. Fighters scramble. Bombers retreat. Easy. Then suddenly, one cluster of dots disappeared. Not turned back. Not destroyed. Vanished. And within minutes, Germany's entire air defense system began to collapse. By 1941, Germany believed it had built the perfect defense. Not walls, not armies, but something invisible. Radar. Across occupied Europe, the Nazis constructed a massive detection network. They called it the Harbor Line. A chain of radar stations stretching from Denmark to France. Each sector was controlled from underground bunkers, each one linked to searchlights, anti-aircraft guns, and night fighters. When British bombers crossed the coast, Germany saw them first. Long before civilians heard sirens, radar operators detected formations at over 100 kilometers. Controllers tracked altitude, speed, direction. Then they directed fighters precisely into interception zones. It was air traffic control. For war, inside dark control rooms, young women and men sat before glowing screens. They moved markers across maps. Red for enemy, blue for friendly. Every movement mattered. Every mistake meant death. Early in the war, this system worked frighteningly well. British night bombers were hunted down one by one. Searchlights trapped them. Flak tore them apart. Night fighters finished the job. Losses mounted. Crews vanished. Morale dropped. WWII 1941. Some RAF squadrons were losing over 10% of their aircraft every month. Unacceptable. Unsustainable. Winston Churchill demanded answers. How are they always waiting for us? The answer was simple. Germany could see in the dark. The Harbor Line had turned the night sky into a controlled battlefield. German commanders were proud, confident. One officer wrote, "The enemy FLIs into our hands." Civilians believed it too when sirens sounded. Many trusted the system. Our fighters will stop them. Our radar sees everything. Our defenses are perfect. But in England, a small group of scientists was studying those radar signals, listening, recording, learning, and preparing something that would make German screens lie. In early 1942, deep inside British research labs, a strange idea was taking shape. Not a bomb, not a plane, not a weapon. Paper, thin strips of metal-coated paper. Scientists called it window. Later, it would be known as chaff.at first. It looked ridiculous. Small aluminum strips, cut precise lengths. .so light. They floated in air. .so cheap. They cost almost nothing. Some officers laughed when they first saw it. You want to beat Germany's radar with paper? But the scientists understood something critical. Radar worked by sending radio waves. Those waves bounce back from metal objects, aircraft, wings, engines, fuselage. If you could fill the sky with thousands of tiny metal reflectors, radar would see ghosts, fake planes, fake formations, fake attacks, entire phantom fleets. One scientist explained it simply. If everything reflects, nothing is clear. For months, the British tested the idea secretly, dropping chaff over empty countryside, watching radar screens. The results were shocking. Screens flooded with noise. Dots multiplied. Signals overlapped. Operators could no longer tell what was real, what was fake, what was dangerous, what was harmless. But there was a problem. Germany had scientists too. If the British used window once, the Germans could copy it. Then both sides would lose radar, and the advantage would disappear. So British commanders hesitated. For over a year, They refused to use it, even as bombers were shot down, even as crews died. They saved it, waiting for the right moment. A moment big enough, important enough, desperate enough. That moment came in. 1943, Operation Gomorrah, the bombing of Hamburg, one of the largest air raids in history, and the night Britain decided to blind Germany. July 24, 1943, Hamburg, 11:57 p.m. More than 700 British bombers lifted into the night sky. T was the largest raid Germany had ever faced. Inside each aircraft, along with bombs and fuel, crews carried something new, small paper packets, marked simply "Window." No one told them exactly what it would do. Only this: drop it when ordered. As the bomber stream crossed the North Sea, German radar stations detected them immediately. Dots appeared, clusters formed, controllers reacted calmly. Sector North, prepare intercept. Sector East, scramble fighters. Routine, just another raid. Then, at 12:18 a.m., the order came. Window, now, bombardiers. Open small hatches. Packets were released. Thousands, then tens of thousands, then millions. Thin metal strips spread through the air, floating, spinning, drifting, invisible to the eye, deadly to radar. Within minutes, German screens began to change. Clear dots blurred. Blobs appeared. Lines merged. Everything overlapped. Operators stared in confusion. What is this? Too many targets. Screen malfunction. Technicians checked equipment. Everything was working. The problem wasn't the machines. It was the sky. Radar stations were drowning in false echoes. Every piece of chaff looked like an airplane. Every cloud looked like a fleet. The calm harbor line collapsed in real time. Controllers could no longer guide fighters. Searchlights swept empty sky. Flak fired blindly. Night fighters flew in circles. Some chased phantom bombers. Others collided in the darkness. Inside one bunker, an officer shouted, "I can't see anything. It's all noise." Meanwhile, British bombers flew almost unchallenged. Formation after formation passed through Germany's defenses untouched. Over Hamburg, bomb bays opened. Explosions rippled across the city. Firestorms began to form. Wind sucked oxygen into burning streets. Buildings collapsed. People fled into rivers. The destruction was catastrophic. WWII morning. Much of Hamburg lay in ruins. Over 40,000 civilians were dead. But from a military perspective, something else mattered more. Germany's radar shield had failed completely in one night, and every commander in Berlin knew it. The war in the air had changed forever, but the consequences were only beginning. By dawn, German air defense headquarters were in chaos. Hamburg was burning. Radar stations had failed. Night fighters had been useless. Flak batteries had fired. Thousands of shells at nothing. No one could explain it. Inside a bunker near Berlin, senior officers gathered around. Damaged reports. Maps were covered in red circles. Entire sectors had gone silent. One commander slammed his fist on the table. "This is impossible. Our system cannot fail like this." But it had. Technicians examined radar equipment. Transmitters were working. Receivers were intact. Power lines were stable. Nothing was broken. Yet the screens had been blind. Captured bomber fragments were studied. Crash sites were searched. Then, near one wreckage site, a soldier picked up something strange. Thin silver strips, light as paper, shining in the sun. At first, they were ignored. Trash. Debris. Useless. But scientists recognized them immediately. Aluminum foil, cut to precise radar wavelengths. Someone whispered, "They flooded our radar." Realization spread quickly. Germany had been tricked, outplayed, out-engineered. Within weeks, German laboratories began copying the idea. They created their own version of chaff. They adjusted radar frequencies. They tried filters. They trained operators to ignore false echoes. But it was never the same, because the advantage of surprise was gone and the British weren't standing still. Either they improved window, they combined it with diversion, raids, fake radio traffic, false bomber, streams, psychological warfare. Now German defenses were fighting ghosts every night. Trust collapsed. Operators doubted their screens. Pilots doubted their controllers. Commanders doubted their reports. One night fighter pilot later said, "I never knew if I was chasing an enemy or nothing." This uncertainty was deadly while Germany struggled to adapt. The Allies escalated. More bombers, bigger formations, heavier bombs, longer missions. The air war entered a new phase, one where technology, not bravery, decided survival, and Germany was falling behind. The final impact of that night in Hamburg was still unfolding. It would reach far beyond one city and help decide the fate of the entire war. After Hamburg, nothing in the air war was ever the same. Germany still had radar, still had fighters, still had flak guns, but it no longer had certainty, and in modern war, uncertainty is fatal. Every night, radar operators now face the same nightmare: blurry screens, overlapping signals, phantom fleets. Was it real? Was it fake? Was it another window attack? No one could be sure. Decisions slowed, interceptions were delayed, fighters were launched too late or sent in the wrong direction. Meanwhile, Allied planners perfected the system. Window became standard. Every major raid used it, sometimes in massive clouds, sometimes in narrow corridors, sometimes to hide real bombers, sometimes to create fake ones. Entire air battles were now staged on radar screens, battles that never existed while the real bombers passed unnoticed. WWII 1944. The effects were devastating. German cities were burning regularly. Berlin, Cologne, Dresden. Raw industry collapsed. Rail networks broke down. Fuel production was crippled. Factories were rebuilt, then destroyed again and again. The Luftwaffe tried to fight back. Jet fighters, new radar, new tactics, but it was too late. They lacked fuel. They lacked trained pilots. They lacked time. Young German pilots were sent into combat with minimal training. Some had never fired their guns before. Battle against Allied veterans with hundreds of hours in the air. It was hopeless. WWII 1945. Allied bombers roamed almost freely, sometimes escorted, sometimes not even needing protection. Germany's once proud air defense system had become a shadow, a broken network, a tired machine, all because of one simple idea: flood the sky with lies. After the war, German scientists admitted the truth. Window had shattered their advantage, not in one night, but forever. One British engineer later reflected, "We didn't destroy their radar, we destroyed their confidence in it, and that was worse, because machines can be repaired. Confidence cannot." The Karlsruhe line had once made Germany feel untouchable, invisible, protected, but on one night in July 1943, a handful of paper strips proved that no system is perfect. No defense is absolute, and no empire is safe. When intelligence outpaces power,